people throughout the industry. You guys heard a great panel today from Naomi Dawes from Extreme Music. You also heard from Cassandra Spangler, a prominent music attorney. And then you heard from Jeff Kretz and Dan Freeman, who are two very prominent professors at Clive Davis. I'm so excited to welcome these three amazing panelists. Michael John Joseph is a Grammy-winning songwriter. He is an incredible, human being and just a really cool person.
True.
And he has such amazing stories that I'm really excited to share with all of you. Curtis Robinson is a great music producer, phenomenal individual. I had the opportunity to meet him at the Recording Academy event, and it was really cool. And he's a great music educator as well, has worked with some of the biggest artists in the music industry. And then my friend Jeremy Jolis, he's from Epidemic Sound. He can give the perspective on publishing and licensing, and is also in a musician. So really, really fantastic to have the three of you here, Michael, Curtis, and Jeremy.
Thanks.
Yeah. So why don't you guys just get started tell me about how you got into this industry. Maybe Michael, you want to start?
So I started out in the creative side. I moved over to the business side. So I went over and started doing management actually of songwriters and producers. And that was amazing experience for me. Back in 2011, 2012, publishing was not as it is today. Curtis will speak on it too. A lot of publishers signed creative deals and did just administration. So because I kept getting so many placements for our clients, I decided to start a publishing company. And that was a big start of next 12 years of my super career that I'm grateful for, especially being that I started like all of you, on the other side, starving songwriter, that I was just trying to make a little money. And, to have helped so many songwriters today, become successful, working on everything from Bieber to Chris Brown to, K-pop, J-pop, dance, you name it, genre-wise, I've been lucky enough to work across multiple genres and spent the last 3 years creating an amazing program at Sony Music UK, which was called Notting Hill Academy of Music. And we teach students some 9-month course program in Sony Music UK. So you get to be meeting executives, artists, everything is in the building. This is not outside of Sony, it's in Sony. So I led that for the last 3 years in the UK. And that was another great experience for sure. And we'll get into questions, but I know that's much as
I love this. Both Michael and Curtis are amazing educators, and so it's really cool to hear about some.
This is a phenomenal executive educator, also family to me. So every word that comes out of his mouth, please take heed to it, trust me, because he has a global perspective that no one has, and he's keen on sharing information that could be really impactful. My name is Curtis Richardson. I've been professionally in this industry for 25 years. I would say 30 because I was in college at the time, which was revealing my age. But I started in my music reluctantly. I come from a musical family. I worked in corporate America. I graduated from college. I discovered music through recording. When I recorded my first demo, I got obsessed with it. So from that point on, I was in studios writing until, and that was almost 25 years ago. And then I got my first cut, and then I think my fourth cut was happened to be a #1 single on a Billboard Hot 100. A song you might know called All I Have by Jennifer Lopez and LL Cool J. I co-wrote that song. So from that point, I realized that the business was more important than my love of creating. So, because once you have success, then that's when publishers come in play, and you realize that you have to account for royalties and all the things that we don't think about as songwriters. You have conversations about, and then now your entity, you have a brand, and now you're at that point, you're looking at getting support to get more opportunity. So, from that point on, I started working. My goal was to be a global songwriter, so I started moving into Europe and Asia at that point. And I worked with, I produced a record for Rihanna since then. I worked with David Guetta. I worked with Craig David, John Legend, a lot of artists. So basically what I'm saying to you all now, the vision I had 20 years ago is what is your reality now. It's a global industry. So from that point, I started doing master classes and started getting into education. And me and my partner, Angelique Sinalou, developed a program called MITE, which will be launched next year. We're in talks with a few universities to onboard it. And it deals with more the business side of music, not so much the creative, because as creators, you guys are amazing and you'll continue to develop and evolve in your creativity as you grow. But the business part of it, which we'll all speak on, is so vital to understand the resources and the tools on how to navigate in this industry, because it's industry. Music is small, business is big, right? So that's what you have to focus on, is making sure you understand the tools to build your ecosystem so you can manage what you do as you move forward and grow on your art.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Yeah, so I'm Jeremy. I work at Epidemic Sound, and I've been there for about 10 years, my whole career basically. But I grew up in Sweden, and people ask like, when did you get into music? And in Sweden, a lot of people get into music in like high school and when you're growing up, because it's literally dark like 9 months of the year. You don't see the sun. You can't do anything.
That's the truth.
So I grew up in times of like Avicii, Odonos, Alesso, all of that. So everyone wanted to be a DJ. Everyone wanted to produce music. And that goes back to the previous generations too. We had ABBA, we had Roxette, you know. I think Sweden is the second biggest music exporter per capita after US. So it's in our DNA.
Yep.
But then I moved to the US to go to college and joined Epidemic after that. And been there for about 10 years. Was head of sales for 6 years, so working with large publishers, media companies to get your music heard and streamed and to get you paid. And right now I work with our partnerships. So making sure the catalog shows up in Canva, Getty, Adobe, to use other platforms to make your music heard as well.
It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you, and Michael and Curtis. It's really cool to have the three of you here and have some perspectives. And also, I see some folks in the back. I think we do still have a couple spots if you guys want to squeeze in. I know it's a little tight, but we definitely want to get you guys, as many of you in here as possible, to hear these great panelists. So I think the second question I have for you is, you've all had incredible knowledge and experience and history in the music industry. How has it changed or evolved since you started working in this industry?
Good question. For me, I think the basis of the music industry stays the same. I think so many artists in a room have focused on the record side of the industry and the master side of the business for so long that it's fun to actually see music publishing be at the forefront. You know, I think music publishing, most people are actually unaware that music publishing started the music business. It actually wasn't the recording companies. It was printing sheet papers and printing books, right? So that's what started. And so it's exciting to see more creatives understand the value of, you know, writing a song. You know, I like to say that a song is a huge asset. If I was to ask quickly in the audience, what do you think the richest song in the world is? Would somebody know?
I want to say the one that they play in Times Square like 1 million times a day.
Empire State Line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's actually Happy Birthday.
Oh.
It's actually Happy Birthday, right? So when you look at assets and you understand, you know, the value of your publishing, all of you are gonna be in a room tomorrow, be in a room today, and write a song, right? And the biggest problem that I find is that people don't understand what Curtis said, which is splits. This is the biggest issue. I think what I'm seeing is more emphasis on the power of actually taking care of your copyright. So if you're asking me what's changed, I think songwriters today are much more aware of their asset versus songwriters in the past, because I think that was such a kind of overlooked thing, right? Because everyone focused so much on the master recording. So for me, what's changed is publishing has now become a real issue when people are paying attention to it.
Absolutely. From when I started in Bridgerton days, to pick up on what Michael said, our focus was, we didn't have as much control over our content then. you have to work in major systems in order to really accelerate your career. So you wanted a major label placement in those days, and so publishing wasn't as, I mean, for me it was important, but for most songwriters, we just thought, okay, well, it's just more or less getting the product out there, getting it placed. In the master, we didn't know master, so our job was just to produce and write, and the master will come out because the label owned the master. Most labels owned it, so it wasn't even a conversation. Nowadays, as songwriters emerge in this new market, we are sometimes master holders because we're artists as well. Sometimes in certain cases you get master points for writing if you're of a certain caliber. Publishing is paramount. So because publishing is paramount, it's important for you to understand the different types of royalties that are due to you. You need to understand the mechanism of administration. You need to understand how, not only what you're making, how you're making it. Because what happens is if you do not, there is money being left on the table. In certain cases, I'll give you a quick story. I had a friend of mine who ran Buma Stemmer, which is like the BMI ASCAP CSEC of Holland. He recovered $25 million in what we call black box income. And that's income that is not collected. And so when he went back to Holland, they didn't want him to bring that income to the writers. So they rooted him out of the job. And then the publishers and the labels absorbed the money. So in a nutshell is, you as a songwriter and a composer, you have to pay attention to the various royalty streams that are due to you. Whereas when I started, we didn't have to pay attention because we just signed a publishing deal. Now I wouldn't jump to sign a publishing deal. Before you sign a publishing deal, and this is what happened to me, do an admin deal to understand the process of collection so you're informed on how your business, it's a business now, right? And then when you get to a point where you have what we call a pipeline, then the publisher will come, hey, we want to sign you. Then you understand, you should know your value before you go in partnership. I'm not saying don't do a deal. I just say it's important for you to understand your value walking into what I call a partnership. You're not an employee of a publisher, you're a partner. Everything you do is a partnership. So if you think as a partnership, you are also a business owner and not laissez-faire of, okay, I'm just going to let them deal with it. Don't do that. Because you have to pay attention. Because real quick, I had a situation where there was international royalties not being collected from me, and I noticed it. Found that there was a publisher collecting my money that I didn't know. We rectified it, but if I wasn't paying attention, I would have never known. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. I think what has changed the most is the explosion of video. I mean, compared to 20 years ago, we watch like 50% more video. And music is becoming more and more important. So I think video is an incredible opportunity for you all to get heard and also noticed. And that's why a lot of these licensing companies are taking off, because everyone can create video. That's how people get exposed, they get famous, and they get paid. Might be a bit biased working for a music licensing company, but it's amazing to see how people can blow up and get careers from having their music in video.
That's true.
You know, and I think that's a huge piece. It's like the video licensing, the ability to do content licensing. It's not just about the music anymore. It's also about being able to content license your content properly. What are some tips and tricks that you guys have for, like, a question that I oftentimes get a lot when working with independent songwriters here in New York is like, I want to get access to a publisher. I want to get access to a sync license. I want to get access to a broadcast license. What are some tips and tricks that you found working with the songwriters you have for how to do that? You know, in terms of what are ways to stand out, and also what are ways to secure some of those publishing opportunities?
So I think one of the biggest issues that I find when I talk to creatives is everybody locks themselves in the studio, and it's unfortunate, but they forget that the biggest piece of it is actually getting out and networking. You know, for me, that's like the reality is, if I gave one person in this audience my phone today, right, based on those relationships, if I gave you my phone and I gave you $1 million, you will do more with my phone than you will do with $1 million. Because the reality is, you need the connections, you need the contacts. You could have $1 million and have nobody to call, And that's just the reality. So for me, I think the tips and tricks, the first thing I would say is you have to get out and network. You have to start understanding that, as creatives, and I have a creative brain, so I'm not speaking just from a business mindset. It's tricky, right? I know as a creative, I hated speaking to people because I just want you to listen to my music. I don't really want to talk to you. Just listen and give me feedback. But I think the biggest thing is understanding that it's a relationship. Like I have people who reach out to me, don't introduce themselves, and just go, bang, listen to my music.
Mm-hmm.
Don't care about you, don't care about what you're doing, don't care who you are. Just, I know you're A&R, listen to my music. One of the biggest tips I always say is, remember we're all people sitting on this stage, and we're all human beings. So at the end of the day, if you treat us as A&R people or industry people as human beings, you're more likely to actually get a result that you want. That's my first tip. The second tip is, finding the right people to work with. Understanding that I've worked at Sony. I've worked with the majors. Every single major you could think of, right? I've worked with a lot of different writers, high level, low level. The reality is Universal is going to be there when I'm dead. The name doesn't matter. You always need a cheerleader within any of the companies that you go to. If you could have a deal right now from an independent label and Universal. You're going to sign with Universal just because of a name. They don't care. You got to go where you have a cheerleader. You have to go somewhere where someone is going to be willing to push your music and get your music to the people who matter. So for me, I think that goes again to the point of how do you pitch, right? That's pitching too. Like when I'm pitching songs for my songwriters, Curtis knows this. Me and Curtis have this conversation all the time. Mm-hmm. There's times when I was in London, and I would get calls from all of my friends at the major publishers like, Michael, we don't get it. You have a small little company that has a little bit of writers. We are pitching 2,000 songs. Mm-hmm. How are you getting these placements on Chris Brown's album? And I'll be like, because I'm pitching 2 songs. Mine are quality. Yeah. You're pitching 2,000 that don't sound good. I'm pitching 2. Yeah. Because my 2 really, so remember that too. Like it's about quality. And that goes again in the relationships you build. You need quality relationships. Everybody's an A&R now. Everybody's a manager now. But are they really?
Mm-hmm. Amen.
Amen.
I'm going to give you an old school trick. That was incredible. I took a lot of us going to say it, but old school trick is when I started, I read credits. I knew everybody I read who were the A&Rs, the producers. I went down to the sound engineers. I knew who everybody was. So back in the olden days, we have to send CDs in. So I would target, okay, I want to send this CD into this A&R. I know what they're looking for. I know what their ear is like. I understand what their vibe is. And you might send in 10 songs. You might take 1. If they take 1, it's a win. Yeah. That's the old Curtis back in the olden days, right? Now I represent writers. Now I play songs for writers that are signed to me and my company as a publisher. And my approach is I identify who the writer is, I understand their strengths, and I go, okay, I need you to do this, 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 and then it's up to me to target and figure out where my targets are, because you have to have targets. So when you are intentional with your targets, like say you're an R&B writer, you're like, I want, like Michael said, Chris Brown. And so Michael is an incredible pitcher, incredible publisher in his own right. The one thing we do is we understand the culture upon which we're entering. So if there's a label or artist, okay, what sound are they going to do? Okay, I think this will work. Because sometimes you have to intuitively know what they're going to be doing, because you can't give them something that they've already done because it's not going to work. And you have to be vigilant and determined. And you, as Michael mentioned, like we had to do, you have to get out there and you have to connect. That doesn't necessarily mean connecting with executives. It could be meaning connecting with someone who's an advocate for you, who isn't in a building, who has the passion for your music, who can move faster and harder than you. And also it means collaborating with other creators, because that collaborator that you work with in that studio 2 months from now could get a deal, and that song you wrote 2 months ago could get placed on a movie or an artist. Do you know that 2 of my biggest cuts came from a writing camp? 2, my Rihanna cut that I produced came from a writing camp, and my Joss Stone cut came from a writing camp in Toronto that nobody wanted to go to. My friend was running it, and I went. and I went on instinct. So you have to have a certain level of discernment, and you have to. We all creators have a level of intuition when we're creating. Use that intuition to guide you to connect with people, connect to situations. Find that needle in the haystack, and don't look for the big chariot. It could be the donkey in the cart. Get on that freaking cart, because that could lead you to the castle. Do you know how many times all my successes have been? So also too. Rejection is redirection. You know how many songs that I have gotten turned down that ended up becoming big because I did not give up. Just because that no came, okay, not for you. Let's redirect it here. Do not get discouraged by rejection. That means it wasn't meant for that particular place that it went. It's meant for something else. There's a song that I wrote 4 years ago. There's a song I wrote, K-pop. Song I wrote 7 years. That was a hit 7 years later on K-pop. When I wrote it, I thought it was an American hit. It was a K-pop hit. But it just goes to. Also, I'll end with this: build a catalog, know your catalog, because you got to be ready for the opportunity. Somebody says, "Oh, we need a song right away." You can't. You got 2 hours. You may not have. You could probably do it, but if you have a catalog, you can pull and say, "Okay, here's the song," and you're ready. And that's it. That's all I'm saying.
I love it. Yeah, thanks.
I think there's three main, at least if we want to work at Epidemic or one of these licensing companies, three main things that will increase the chance of you getting signed. Number one, like we said, connections. If you have a warm intro from anyone, it can be from a entry-level business person or an A&R, your stuff will get listened to. If you just send it in like a random email into a box, it's a very big chance that I'll get lost. Second one, like your resumes, it's your social media profiles. Like we look at what's your brand, how do you connect with your audience? It's really big. And number three, again, the resume is your number of streams. We don't have time to listen to every single song, but if you can show that you have a big following as an artist and a good amount of streams, you have a lot bigger chance to get listened to and get taken seriously. So release a bunch and hope that some of them hit.
Thank you, guys. And I just wanted to go back to one point you made, Curtis. So recently, you're so right about finding writers and publishers in funny places. I love to go to the Blue Note and Village Vanguard. And one of the cool things that you both know, actually all three of you probably know, is that the jazz community puts out like a monthly newsletter. So basically when I first came over to Echoland and we were working on this project, I started picking it up and started seeing the names of the people in there and started finding all of the people on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and some of these people are quite substantive publishers and people in the publishing world. Curtis and Michael are absolutely right. Sometimes the places that you find the connections and the opportunities to open doors are places where you would least expect it. So,
Can I just interject real quick?
Yeah.
This young man that I met, I met him in Amsterdam. Randomly, like I don't even know how we met at I think it was a restaurant, right? We met in Amsterdam, had a conversation, we clicked right away because this man's mind is just exceptional. He's kind of like a mix of old school and new school industry, which I've never really met. So it was really just great. And that connection built a relationship. So that goes back to making connections with people that are unlikely. You don't know where you're going to meet them. You can meet them in a club. You can meet them in a supermarket.
Yeah.
You know, I met my publisher at a dinner.
Yeah.
A random dinner.
Yeah.
You know, you never know.
No, it's true.
Well, sorry, one last thing I want to say to what both Jonathan and Curtis said is I at Sony Music UK, this is something that I usually do with the students, is I pull out executives. There's times that some of my students are sat in the cafeteria, right? And it would be the president of Columbia Records sitting right close to them. And because they don't know what some of these people look like, what their names are, people are not spending time doing research. Like the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is go to Music Business Worldwide, Music Week, Hits Daily Double. Like I live on those. Before I even do anything, my first 15 minutes of my day is like, what's going on? What's happening in the music industry? Because the reality is, I love what you all said, right? Your resume is important, but the reality is, if me and you jump on a train together today, and you're like, "Oh, you're the head of A&R. Oh, by the way, did you see that story that happened today in the music industry?" That's how we all communicate. We don't communicate. Like, I have never put my resume up to get any of the jobs I have, to be honest. My resume, yes, it is the songs I place, but I mean, like, actually sitting and writing a resume that's like, I'm putting a full, never done it. Because the reality's been, like, we have a conversation and someone's like, oh, that's interesting. And so I just want to say, like, please, if you love it and you're passionate about it, like Curtis said, like, start going, like, understand, because the reality is you will walk past the record executive or he'll be standing in front of you in a line getting a pizza, and because you just don't know, like, you won't know that that's that person. Just imagine if you do and you're like, hey, by the way, that starts that conversation that ends up building a relationship.
Totally agree. Yeah, that's a really good point. No, that's a great point. Last question, and then we'll open it up to Q&A from you guys. So, you know, I think we talk a lot about monetization of music catalogs. This is a big topic that's come up, particularly with everything changing and certainly a lot of the technological changes. And I know all three of us have talked about it at an individual level. What are some ways that young songwriters that are building that catalog, what are some ways that they can market and monetize that catalog?
Yeah, so I think for me, there's so much opportunity now. I think, you know, you've got a lot of people starting to understand sync, because sync licensing was something that so many artists didn't understand. For a long time, everyone just wanted to be, my music got to get heard, I got to go on tour, I have to play shows, and that's what I want to do. I have friends right now that, you know, I have a friend, she wasn't even passing the 1,000 mark on Spotify. As you all know, when you're not streaming that much, you're stuck underneath that 1,000 threshold, right? And she ended up getting a song synced in Bridgerton, and she blew up overnight. When I say blew up completely, she was doing millions of streams like overnight. Right now, she ended up going to Venice, which is a distribution company, and she's head of sync. She's still an artist, but she's head of sync because she understood how just the sync placement side could work. So for me, I think when we look at monetization now, I think you've got to stop looking at just these, I gotta put music on Spotify, or I have to also just thinking like I have to get a sync. Like that's the only way that my music is gonna work. There's so many vehicles now, like so many. Like, you know, I think you have to be looking just overall at the amount of opportunities. Now I know that it makes it tough because there's so much opportunities out there, but to be honest, I just think like look for places that, like Curtis even mentioned, look for places that are weird that you just don't really think your music can work in, and start exploring that. Because let me tell you, 150,000 per side on a sync, if you own that master and the publishing, that's 300,000. And I've seen those briefs come into my email where we're working on something for Guinness, and it's like 150,000 per side. That's 300,000 if you own both the master and the publishing. It's still 150,000 if you own the publishing. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, I continue on the sync train because, I mean, we work with artists that are not mainstream major label artists, but typically we sign them in the 50 to 100K stream range. And the opportunity within sync is, number one, money. We pay about between 4 and 6K per track that gets into our catalog, and artists make about 10 to 20 tracks a year with us. So on average, the artists make 80K a year, and this is 23, 22-year-old that are not doing this exclusively. So they're doing this as a gig. And we own the tracks, but it's a job, right? You work with A&Rs, you create music on order, and then your music will get played by 300,000 online creators, so YouTubers, influencers. We also work with the biggest media companies, so I might license a track to Netflix or to GoPro, so your music will be heard there. And that all feeds back into your streaming numbers. So we had a really, really interesting situation happen with Katori Walker, one of our best hip-hop artists. And he came to us where he was about 100,000 streams. And then one day we looked on YouTube, and Mr. Beast had used one of his tracks in his video.
Wow.
And it was like crazy because it's a hip hop, it's lean, it's not background music. It was like the main theme of the song was, or the video was his song. And his the number one comment was like, "Who is this artist? We need his link." And his Spotify blew up. And that happens on a daily basis. I mean, we work with the biggest media companies in the world that license music. And we own the tracks, but we still split streaming 50-50, which is quite unheard of in the music industry. So they make a lot of money, and these are, you know, artists like all of you that come to us and do this as a gig, as a job.
These fine gentlemen said everything I would say, but I think with sync, just to help you understand how sync works, when you get a sync license, you get a license for the usage for the master and the publishing. It's best to own those. In some cases, it's great because sync, most syncs are considered performance royalties, so your ASCAP, BMI, if it's a film, it's a Q sheet. If it's something else, it'll be something different for the most part. But to add to that, I think most songwriters today, they need to be artists, honestly. You need to be an artist, because the reality is you can control so much more when you're doing it. For case in point, I just got a song placed in a film of the Amazon Studios produced, and I'm the artist on the song. And I'm no artist. I just sing every now and then in genre, right? In house. But also to add to that, you should do collaborations with other artists, bigger artists than you. There's a lot of DJs that are looking for amazing, new, exciting, unique voices to collaborate with. I would seek out who they are, look up, like Michael said, find out who their management is, and submit your material. They may take a song. Like I remember one time I did a song years ago, and then Afrojack hit me up and said, hey, I love this song. And it was my artist who I represent and publish. And they were like, can we buy the song? And he's sitting on the song. He's going to release it at some point. But the point is, the thing is, collaboration is so key. Because, for example, if you work with an artist outside of the United States and they release that record overseas, there's neighboring rights, which is a whole nother revenue. That I'll get into that, but basically it's like a performance royalty for the singer, for the artist. So you want to widen your net to global opportunities. Start collaborating, even if it's not your sound. Start spreading your likeness out, because a lot of artists go, well, this is really my genre, I want to stick to this genre. No, you have to diversify now. You have to diversify. If you're going to do a song with a Chinese artist, do it, because you want to get their audience to come to your page. Because how streaming works is, if that record gets 30 million streams and you're a main artist on that track, that counts toward your overall streaming count. So people like Jeremy will go, hey, who's this artist that has 30 million streams? Wonder if they have their rights, maybe I can do a deal with them for sync licensing. That's what happened to this young lady I work with in Australia. She worked with a small label in Australia. I forget her name. I forget what her name was, or whatever. This one artist, she had a song that got 40 million streams, and then everybody and their mother was signing. They flew to Australia to sign her. You just never ever know, but just try to collaborate. Try to get your work out there. Sync was one way. Your own stuff is one way. Is to try to there's licensing is really key. Also, I'm trying to think. But as a songwriter, write for others if you can write, because you just never know. Write for an indie artist. You don't know if their artist is going to blow up tomorrow. Like, you take your skill and spread it out to other places. You got to enterprise your skills. Enterprise it.
I really love that. Thank you, the three of you. So now we open up to you guys, and we'll kind of do this the same method that we did at the industry panel. I'll take maybe 2 or 3 questions. Then we'll answer them, then we'll do another. So raise your hand if you have a question. I know there's some folks in the back as well, if you want to relay those questions. Yeah.
I find that people watch more than they like. Don't get tripped up by them likes now. You might get 10 likes, but you got what I call secret shoppers. Oh, the legend, Krishan, would you like to add to that?
I want to add to that, yeah.
Come on up.
Come in the front if you guys don't mind.
I don't know, it's too many.
If you don't mind.
Stay. Oh my.
Okay, come on.
So my answer to that is, you have to turn every song that you put up into a story. Turn the song into a story. If you're able to do that, you're gonna get the consumer to pay more attention to it, right? The viewers, because they're looking for a visual presentation. That's why they're on there.
Yep.
So if you can take your song conceptually, right,
Mhm.
and just create a fictitious story out of it, whether it's comedic, whether it's serious, but just make stories out of your songs, and then you're gonna see that everything starts to,
Right.
you know, it's
That's
gonna start
absolutely
to
correct.
resonate and make sense.
That's correct.
Thank you. I'll come in a minute because
Yeah.
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 Tell them we'll do our close.
That pretty much was the second part, but he answered it. Next.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Evie.
Maybe.
Yep. Since your DM. You had mentioned. Introduce yourself.
We'll talk.
My question. You had mentioned 50 to like 100K as a metric. Do you mean monthly streams? Does that need to be for like a current song, or what's the situation there?
No, that's overall Spotify streams. And it's not well, you have to have that, but that's typically where we start. It's a good metric to have when we start looking.
I've had that for like a single song, and I have no idea why that happened. That was just they call it the algorithm random. Also, how important are live shows? Do you rate them, or is it mostly like proven streaming that allows someone to make sense for you to collaborate with?
Yeah, I mean, it's great if you have live shows because it shows that you connect with your audience, that you have one. But I'll say for sync, it's not paramount. It's not as important as streams or having a story or a strong social following.
Me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I think earlier when there was someone else standing next to me, I got confused. Hi, my name's Haley. Kind of along those lines, actually, that was a perfect question to go after. I was wondering, like, in terms of getting those streams, like, you mentioned collaborating with DJs or, and I think that's such a good idea. And I kind of have done that with, like, remixes, and I'm sure, some people have done that too. But when you're gaining streams for, let's say, remixes of songs or things that don't necessarily, like, aren't cohesive with what your artist brand is, and it's kind of messing up, like, you might have some DJ music on your page and some, like, more ballady, like, different vibes because you're gaining streams. Is it better to have those streams but have kind of a chaotic page that isn't necessarily cohesive, or to, like, keep true to your artist brand and focus, if that makes it's kind of a specific question?
This is a conversation I have every other day.
You're an expert.
20 years ago, I would have told you, stick to your artist brand, just stick to it and just play the long game. Now we're playing a numbers game. So people like Jeremy or myself, because I also publish too, and Michael does too. So it's really about your creative economy. Like, what are you trying to achieve, right? So if you're trying to achieve more visibility, it's important for you to have the numbers. Now, if you're a tried true artist, like, okay, I'm just going to stick to, like, you just have to be patient. You have to literally go, okay, I might get under 1,000 streams for 6 years, or one of these songs is going to take off. They're going to take off. You have to be persistent and patient. So I call them the 2 Ps, irregardless. So to me, it doesn't matter. I think diversity is great because what's going to happen is it's a discovery model. So even if you did a song with a DJ and they came and go, wait, I want to hear what Haley, I like this folk song she did. And then now you've gotten eyeballs and ears on that song that may have lied in the undercurrent. Now you're getting that visibility. A lot of international artists, like British artists or whatever, they do, like, for example, Jess Glynn is an artist I'm thinking about. Jess Glynn was like the feature queen, right, of dance music. Then she did so well. She got her own project, and then she started moving in a different direction. Somewhat similar, but she started defining who she was. But she got that platform through. Ray is another one. Ray is another one. You see what she's doing now? She was not doing. She was huge in features, right? And that's how she was able to get the platform to go, okay, now you understand my talent, you know what I do. This is what I want to show you now. You got to look at it like phases, right? You got to go, okay, this is the preamble, this is the build up. Now I got these in the chamber. Now you're going to get the artistry. This is what I do. Now you're all paying attention. You have to look at it that way.
I have one more thing to add that can really boost your streams. That's playlisting. We have a team of like 14 people just pitching to Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, and they're really good at it. So if you work with us,
it's on to Jeremy.
your music will show up on Rap Caviar, and or these big ones, but not just that. Like some of the biggest playlists on Spotify is music to chill to, lo-fi beats to cook with, whatever.
Your third party.
Yeah, and I mean, they get millions of streams. And again, it might not be that you know the artist, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day when you look at those stream numbers.
And also, too, just to add what Jeremy said, those third party will keep your songs on the playlist longer.
Yeah.
Because I had a debate with somebody like, oh, I want to get editorials. Okay, cool, get editorials. They'll have your thing on there maybe 1-2 weeks, maybe. But then I have a friend who has a company who works with major labels, and their job is to get on third party playlists because they may stay on that playlist for 6, 7, 8, 9 months. And that's where the bulk of those streams are coming from. Not really, editorials are nice. I'm going to say they're not nice. They're impressive, but you want to remain on the playlist as long as you can. So that's your goal. Even as an independent artist, like Jeremy said, target third party so you can stay longer.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Curtis, because I think when Playlist Push and some of those other companies came right out, there was a lot of, I mean, we all know there's a lot of backlash in the industry, but I think that's now normalizing a lot because of exactly what you said. Like, people are realizing, oh, if I get a song on a playlist that's a third-party playlist and it stays on for, you know, X number of weeks, it's going to be much more valuable downstream than getting on a Spotify playlist, being on there for 2 weeks and getting on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think just the last thing I want to add to that is like I as an A&R, as a head of A&R, somebody that like finds talent on a daily basis, like I find too many artists focus too much and put too much emphasis on that. Like Spotify releases 150,000 songs a day. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like I'm not saying don't chase the playlist. Like I think still do what you're doing. But I think artists need to think about different ways too, because there's so many artists I meet that are just trying to chase to get a playlist, and it's like they put like 90% of their time on that and forget like there's another way to interact. There's another way to get to where you need to get to. Like I said, Spotify is doing right now. It's 150,000 songs a day.
Crazy.
Literally.
Yeah. So. And we haven't even talked about TikTok, right? Like TikTok as a platform. I mean, like now, I would have said 5 years ago, you guys are absolutely like the playlisting thing is an exclusive thing. Now, TikTok has completely changed the game. You can blow up on TikTok and then it can translate into some Spotify performance with an editorial. So, Abby.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you guys so much for being here, sharing your guys' expertise. What I wanted to ask was, I've seen advice online about independent artists and how when they sign to a label, their kind of opinion about it is their songs are their soul. And so like when they give themselves up to a label, it's like them selling a little part of themselves. How do you guys rebuttal that?
Yeah, let me say something. I love this. I love this conversation. I love this conversation. Let me say something. Everybody that's online that says that has never even been offered a record deal in their life.
Okay, what about Russ? I'm getting this from
No,
Russ.
I'm being honest, because like I see that so many times. Like artists come to the label and they're just like, yo, to publishing, and they're just looking at me like, I just don't want to sign to you, because at the end of the day, like everybody just takes. And my thing is, I'm not saying every artist, but like a large majority of people would have never been offered a deal yet. And so there's this stigma that always happens. Like to me, I've worked with labels, and I'm just back to your point. Like I've worked, like I did, I worked with Post Malone and the label at the last job I had. And when you look at some of the power and some of the things some of these labels are able to do for an artist and take an artist, I'm not saying there isn't bad labels. I'm not saying there isn't bad deals. However, for me, what I do believe is information. Anyone that comes to me and negotiates a bad deal and then a couple months later says I signed a bad deal, came in and negotiated a bad deal. I didn't give you a bad deal. You just didn't have the information to negotiate a better deal. Because I would rather you try to negotiate and walk away from the table like, yeah, I didn't sign that, and it makes sense for you. But one thing I find a lot, and a lot of artists complain about, is a lot of artists will sign a deal today and then in 3 years say, that was the worst thing I could have done, that label was bad. No, you just negotiated a bad deal.
Yeah.
I just want to say one thing quick, Sean. Hold on. I think it's important for artists to build up their constituency before they do anything, because I think a lot of times with independent artists, they don't, I find that the ones I meet don't really know who they are. They don't know their brand value of who they are yet. There's a thing we used to do in the old days called development. So now you have to do it yourself because there were development teams developing artists in the olden days, Bridgerton days. Now you have to develop yourself or your team. Hopefully you have a team around you that helps you to develop. And that's the importance of having a good team, right? So when you build yourself up enough and you built up your stream, like you built up your like live shows and who you are and what you are, I don't think that conversation comes into play because now you're negotiating in, like I said earlier, in a sense of as a partner, right? So then they're looking, because the major's looking at you and saying, oh, we love what you did here. It's working. How do we amplify that? As opposed to, we got to build you like Build-A-Bear. We're going to throw you in the studio with the hottest producers and songwriters to write songs for you. But you're like, wait a minute, but I write my own songs. They don't care. At the end of the day, it's a return on investment. Are you going to make them money? And it's a business, and this is where the business, as Michael said, comes into play. It's not to vilify the majors or the majors. It's like they can help you, but you also have to bring something to the table as well. Please, Sean.
Yeah, Krishan?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, now I'm coming to for this one.
He was itching.
But I will say, as Krishan is coming up, I do agree. Like, I think we all have been involved in major label work throughout our careers. And there is sort of a bit of a villainization, and you guys have to realize that it is a business, you know? Like, at the end of the day, we come from this industry, we love this industry, but it is also a business. You have to balance both.
Listen. Please, I'm begging you, listen to me. Do not buy into any of that foolishness that people say about the record companies, right? Because here's the thing. If you go to Best Buy, right? No, seriously, you go to Best Buy, and Best Buy says, I'm gonna give you a job, and I want you to stand over here and I want you to sell this TV, right? And you say, you know what though? I think I'm gonna go about this my own way. I got my own plan of how I'm not gonna do TVs. I'm gonna go over there and sell these speakers. This is what I'm doing. What do you think the supervisor is gonna tell you? He's gonna say, this is great, now there's the door, and you can leave, because I didn't hire you for that, right? This is business. When artists say things like that, just know that it's deeper than negotiating. They never got that far. They already signed that contract before they walked in the office. Because the music industry has an allure to it. Because what you guys see is the results of the hard work, but you don't see the hard work that we put in to get to where we got.
True.
So when an artist walks into a record label, he goes in there and he desperately wants that deal. And then the label might offer them an amount of money they've never seen before in their life. You know, the average person doesn't make $100,000 a year, let alone I'll put $100,000 as a number for an advance. So you're already defeated because you let everything that anybody tells you. I've been in situations with lawyers and sat in the office with them and the artists, and the lawyer's looking at the contract and he's like, yeah, I don't think you should sign this, man. Just let me take some time, let me work on it, and I'll come back to you. And they're so desperate because they saw that $100,000 number, and then they're thinking about Post Malone, and they're thinking about Drake, and they're thinking about these artists and saying, God damn it, I want to be that. And they sign it. Now you've signed your life away. You have nobody to blame but yourself. So one, artists need managers. And those of you that know me know I say this all the time. Artists need managers. The manager's job is to help you understand the business side of the business so that you can focus on your craft.
That's true.
Number two, record labels are not God nor the devil. They just record companies. And I'll say it like this. Record companies are impartial to the creative progression of music. What that means is that they are not in the business of making records. Artists and producers are in the business of making records. They are in the business of selling records. That's it. You should not expect them to do anything but sell your music for you. And if you have an expectation of them doing anything else, of course it's going to be a bad deal to you. Because you signed it under the wrong pretense. Because somebody didn't guide you properly to understand the nature of the relationship. Their job is just to sell music. They don't give a goddamn what you say on that song. You could make a song tomorrow, Mary Had a Little Lamb, the disco dance version. And if everybody's If you hit 100 million streams, guess what's gonna happen? Sylvia Rome will call, Monty Littman will call, Avery Littman will call, Mela Winter will call. Everybody that matters in this business will be calling your phone like as if they've known you your entire life. And then after they take your Mary Had a Little Lamb, they're gonna sit down and say, I gotta find 14 more Mary Had a Little Lambs. Because they're not in the business of making music. They don't care. What they care about is the music that you have, is it getting a favorable response from the audience? And if it is, then that means I can monetize this, which means I'm gonna get my money back. Because that $100,000 that's on that contract is a loan. It is not a gift.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's not rocket science.
That's true. And I think just to put that last piece, I mean, I heard of before my time when the mafia ran the music business. They probably put a gun to your head then, but they definitely don't now. So like most artists are signing that deal knowingly, like he said, they're signing it knowingly. So even like, and I think this is what I'm trying to say, like, you know, there's artists like Russ, who I love. Russ is one of my favorite artists, but you still go through a label, you still go through a distributor. So it's very wrong sometimes, the message that's coming out. That's why I said people are misinforming artists, because if you want, how would you put your music out? You're still releasing through somewhere. You're, instead of saying like, hey, independence means this. Independence can be, is still a label. Distribution company is still a label. They're still distributing and selling something. So I think for me, that's why I say like information is key. You know, I meet artists all the time that come to me and say, I just don't want to do the deal. I feel like I'm signed. And I'm like, who told you this? And it's like, well, all my friends. And I'm like, have your friends ever been offered a label deal before? Like, not to say that in the wrong context, but it's just, it's hard to go with something. And I'm a person that believes it's hard to go with something if you've never experienced it yourself. If somebody's telling you and they experienced it, it's a little different.
Yeah, and another thing too, man, is you have to surround yourself, and they touched on it earlier, with the right support system. You know, I won't say this, I met an artist who said he had a bad deal. And I asked him who negotiated the deal. He was like, oh, my Uncle Larry did. Now, Uncle Larry was a lawyer. But he was a real estate attorney.
It's not the same.
Listen, real estate lawyers, criminal lawyers, entertainment lawyers, and business lawyers all speak a separate language. It's like feudal China before they merged all of the kingdoms, right? They speak such different language that an entertainment lawyer will say things that a real estate lawyer it's like gibberish. It's like me listening to the lawyer. I'm like, what are you even talking about? I don't understand it. Can you break it down for me, right? So you have to surround yourself with people that are A, knowledgeable, that B, have relationships. And without those two things, you know? So don't be afraid of record deals. Just be smart about how you get into one. You have to know what you're getting into.
Sure, the question.
Oh yeah,
Tony?
Yes, hi. So just because like it works so beautifully, I'm Tony, by the way. Hi.
Hi, Tony. Where you from?
I'm from Austria.
Oh, go Austria.
But yeah, so let's say you know, you got lucky, you got a little swagger on, and people are kind of like, you know, interested in your stuff because you're getting streamers and all that stuff. And how, like, you know, if someone wants to sign you, or if like, you know, people are getting interested. Obviously, like, the bigger the record label, like, the bigger the artist they already have. So if, like, I don't know, Def Jam comes to you and they have Justin Bieber up there, obviously he's gonna be, like, the priority, right? So how do you make sure, first of all, that you negotiate fairly? Second of all, that what if you get uber lucky and you have a case of Mike Posner, where, like, you actually perform well, and then your second song might not be as huge of a hit and still performs well, but, like, you know, all that jazz.
I like to answer this question. Are you finished?
Almost.
Okay.
Like, sorry. I only have once to speak, so I gotta put it all in there.
Okay.
So that is kind of the part A of the question, and part B is like, how do you get the label to care? Like, how do you get them to see your potential, especially with nowadays developing not really being part of a label that much?
Okay. My answer to that question is, if a label or any entity major comes to you and wants to sign you, that's a win. Because you have to plan, you have to have a plan yourself. So as Quayshawn mentioned, as Michael mentioned, as we all mentioned, at that point, hopefully you have a good team around you that's sitting around saying, like a manager or advocate or someone that says, okay, we have this opportunity. We have to have a plan on our side. Because like I said earlier, it's a partnership. What happens is when artists walk into label deals or any kind of deals, they think like an employee. They're thinking, okay, I'm an employee of this label, so they're going to do all the work, and I just kind of sit there and go where they tell me to go. Those days are over.
Yeah, of course.
You built up so far to get to this point. You have to also have a plan and an understanding of what you want. So when you're talking to them, you say, okay, this is my music, this is my brand, this is what I would like to do. Because you're the creative, you got to help give direction too. Now they may have ideas as well. You come together, you figure it out from that point. Listen, the whole idea of one hit wonder, better to have one than none.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's true.
You know, and I've been called, you know, like for me, like I'm telling you, I've heard that before. So that one hit could get you shows for the rest of your life. So Mike Posner, as you mentioned, can still tour anywhere and around the world with those hits. He has more than one hit, of course. So don't think, don't think that way. Think of this is leveraging. I'm going to leverage this opportunity to build into my bigger goal. You have to have a vision for yourself. Don't harness your vision. Don't sit there and go, they have to have a vision for me and I don't have anything. You have to bring something to the table too.
Yeah, and so I was just going to add to Curtis' point. I think the other thing is don't take nothing personal. Let me tell you, the way the music industry works, and I'm gonna be honest.
Sure.
I could have a hit today, and then I won't have a hit tomorrow, and no one will pick my phone up. So I just have to know that like it's not personal, because when I have a hit again, it'll be, hey bro, let's do another session, and then I won't have nothing for a while, and it'll be like, can somebody pick my phone up, and no one picks up, and then I'm like, another hit. Hey guys, what's going on? I'm still here. So I think you don't take nothing. Like I think back to the point, I think people like Mike Posner and a lot of these guys, a lot of artists really get broken by the industry because they genuinely don't realize that these people are not really your friend. It's a business. So at the end of the day, when you're hot, everyone's answering the phone. When you're cold, no one is. But it's not personal. It's just that the way the music industry works is we just care about what's hard at the moment. So it's like you might be cold for 2 years, but then the third year you might hit another hit, and then it's like, oh, you still here? Oh, what's going on? And so it seems fake. That's why people say the music industry is fake. It's not. People just focus on what's important, which is what I can see in front of me. So in front of me is a hit. You had a hit today, great. You don't have a hit tomorrow. My phone as a head of, I've been in A&R for 14 years. I've sold like almost 20 million records. I've even won a Grammy this last year. If I don't win one this next year, my phone's gonna be cold. It's not personal. You know, it's not personal.
How do you make sure you're not shelved when you're even allowed to put on music afterwards, though?
There's only one answer to that, and that's hard work.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the reason why a lot of artists go wrong when they sign a record deal is they have this misconception that the record company is now going to do all the work and they get to take a break.
Come on.
And that's not how this works. Actually, your workload has to double because of the fact that there's Justin Bieber and there's these other A-list artists that are also on that same roster, and now you have to compete with them for attention. But that doesn't mean because Justin Bieber's there, you won't get attention, because then they wouldn't have signed you in the first place, right? That meant they signed you because they saw something. There's something there analytically that's telling them that there's potential for this record to do something. But once they put you in that position, there's a difference. You have a benefit right now. Your benefit is you ain't on a time clock right now because you're not signed anywhere. So you can take all the time you want to figure this shit out. But the minute you sign that deal, you on the clock. You got a deadline to reach certain thresholds and expectations in that partnership in order to continue to have the same kind of support that you start out with on day one. So if you take that advance money or you take whatever they give you and you squander it, guess what? You're gonna run out of time. And then you're gonna hit a point where they're gonna say, well, we're looking at the analytics, we expected it to do this, it only did that. I gotta go focus on the other 100 artists that we signed when we signed you. And now, for you to become relevant to them again, you gotta go out and work 3 times as hard. But it's impossible to do that for you, because guess what? You spent all the money. You spent it on things other than what you should have invested it in, which is yourself and your brand. So it's very important that you realize that when you get record deals or going to get a record deal, there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to know what you're getting into, right? You have to understand that now I'm entering into a joint venture partnership with a conglomerate that has a bottomless pit of money, a ton of resources, and a roster of heavyweight hitters that are people doing exactly what I hope and aspire to be able to do. It's just like the NFL. I sign a guy right out of college, first round draft pick, right? We put him on the field, he doesn't do so well. What happens?
He's waived.
Bench.
Yeah, or you get that hotshot kid that comes in there and the guy that was there 2 seasons already, he fighting for a job. Wait a minute though, we won a Super Bowl together. I'm fighting for my position? Yeah, because I just signed this new kid from college and he's a superstar and he's outworking you in practice. He's outperforming you. He's in the gym when you're out hanging out in the strip club. So this is what it is, right? So I'm gonna stop, so I don't wanna keep going too long.
No.
No, because somebody else raised their hand. I see hands
No,
raised.
because it was an order, because I just told him.
Also, I will say we're running low on time, so we're gonna take one more question, and then these guys. I mean, if any of you have time, you guys can definitely stick around. Like, you know, these guys will probably be around as we have sessions and stuff like that. You can definitely continue to ask some questions. You know, so we'll take one final question over there in the back.
Hi. Thank you for all the advice.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a question, like a pre-label question. I don't think a label is on the horizon for me just yet, but I'm working on like my own business from my own independent standpoint. I've been thinking a lot about the $100 for 1,000 fan theory. You know, if you get $100 a year from 1,000 committed fans, that's, you know, a decent salary. And so I'm kind of curious from your perspective, one, creative ways to get $100 out of fans when you know that sometimes, you know, a win is just someone playing your song for a day, or even if they play it every day for a year, that's still not $100 from that one person. So I have a question about that, just getting creative with that. And then two, I'm very like indie community driven. I host a couple open mics around town. I like organizing songwriter showcases. I'm very live and in person with my craft. And it's hard for me to separate when am I talking to someone who I'm trying to acquire as a fan, and when am I talking to someone who I'm trying to acquire as a collaborator in the future? Because I don't want my fans to be music people. I want them to be people who resonate with the themes in my songs. So how do I, living the life that I'm living, you know, differentiate when I'm talking to someone as an artist to a fan, and when I'm talking to someone as an artist to a potential producer, a co-writer, etc.
Yeah, I just like to add, I really like what you said in the beginning that, you know, labels isn't for everyone right away either. I think most songs that are breaking right now are not being broken by the label. So there's a lot of different ways to get heard and seen, and it's not always, I mean, sorry to these legends, but there are other ways these days. It didn't used to be that way, but
No, I agree with
No, but listen,
We totally agree.
in order for a label to want to sign them, they have to do what you're talking about.
Yeah,
So it still goes hand in hand. Like, labels aren't knocking on somebody's door with 3 streams saying, I gotta sign you tomorrow.
Yeah.
You have to have done the independent work to get there.
yeah. And to your other point, I like, again, what we do is we try to help artists get paid. Artists have been screwed over for so long. So $100 from, you know, 1,000 fans, I'm not really sure like Patreon stuff, but even work for hire.
Yeah.
I mean, like you were talking about, this is a job.
Yeah.
Like, you're an amazing, talented artist, and yeah, you might have your soul in an album, but it could also just be a job. Just write really good music for TV, for spaces. Like we soundtrack McDonald's, Starbucks, complex shows, and a lot of that music is, you know, really good music that people have been paid per track to write.
I want to add to that also, and to answer your question is, when you meet somebody, and don't mind my analogies, I'm a parable guy, right? But when you meet somebody and you build a friendship or a relationship, you want them to know every aspect and layer of who you are, right? You don't say, I'm gonna just let you know this part of me and I'm gonna hide this part of me. And you shouldn't do that with your craft either. I think that anybody that you meet, you should be wanting to get all of the above from them. You should want to be a collaborative with them. You want them to be a fan of yours. You want them to be all of the above, because you never know where your next biggest fan is going to come from, and you never know who the right collaborator is going to be. And that person might be one and the same.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, Guys, it is such an honor and a pleasure to be on stage with all of you. Thank you so much for your incredible words.
This is the secret side.
This is a really, you know, when we created Electric Soul Camp, this is kind of what we envisioned, and it's really cool to have you all here and to impart your wisdom. So thank
Also,
you.
lastly, if you guys want to reach out to us or work with us, like shoot us an email.
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll share the.
I'll share.
Say that we connected here and.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you guys so much. Coming up next, we'll go back to doing some session work, and then we'll close up sessions for tonight and start back up again tomorrow. So Group A here, you know, Group Sub A over there, and Sub A here, and Group B downstairs. Thank you guys. And these guys will hang around for just a little bit if you have.